Hello and welcome to the FinTech Finance Virtual Arena. And here today, we're going to be looking at Saxo Bank's journey to cloud. And joining me for that is Ashok Kalyanswamy from Saxo Bank. Ashok, how are you doing here today?
I'm doing very fine, thank you.
Amazing. Now, Ashok, for our audience who might not be aware, could you tell them a bit more about yourself, your role at Saxo and your journey there, please?
All right, absolutely. Thank you so much. So I'm the group CIO for Saxo Bank, and I joined Saxo Bank in 2017. And as a CIO, I'm responsible for all of technology. Anything which smells or tastes like technology, it's on me. And that includes really what we offer is an electronic trading platform for professional traders, investors, and the partners. We are a facilitator in global capital markets. So for people who don't know Saxo Bank, what that means is our business model is like Uber, Airbnb. On one side, we have investors, an investor persona who just want to trade stocks, mutual funds, do some research, professional traders or partners. And just like in Uber, you want cars and taxis, here if you're trading, you want access to equities, bonds, liquidity. And we typically get from other big brokers around the world, right? We are typically not members of exchanges. We just have negotiated good price, lot of liquidity, and pass it on to customers, right? So we are a platform company, and so we have to provide the technology for that. A big part of our business is also partnerships and white labels, because we have Open API itself as a product. So if you're a bank in Portugal or Spain or anywhere, and you're very regional, and suddenly you say, okay, I want to offer global trading and investment, for you to get licenses and technology is going to cost a lot of money and a lot of time. So people just white label us, and they can own the user journey and use APIs behind the scenes powered by Saxo, or they can take off finance, right? So that's about Saxo. And previous to that, I was 6 years in Hong Kong, 2 years in London, 24 years in New York. Macquarie Securities Group, running technology for them. CIO for Asia, Japan, and running execution services in Nomura, Hong Kong, global prime brokerage in London for Nomura. But really, it was a combination of Lehman Brothers, Barclays, Nomura. So Lehman Brothers from 99 through the bankruptcy, really running all the electronic trading technology, direct market access, futures. Same role at Barclays in New York after the bankruptcy, and then after Nomura. So really a lot of experience in capital markets, trading and investment.
I think that's just absolutely incredible to bring that experience to bear here today. It's going to be so important, because you have seen in each one of those markets that kind of diversified nature to interpreting how to kind of access this journey to cloud, access technology, and kind of really go on and bring that all into one place. Now, with that in mind, financial institutions like some of the ones you've mentioned are collecting huge amounts of data on their customers, and some of those might be customers in one geography, in another geography. That creates, well, especially with legacy systems, data silos, non-standardized data. So what are some of the issues that might come from that are not immediately obvious, apart from the sheer organizational issue around that?
Yeah, I think it's data quality and data governance, right? Forget about the technology of how you build information to be relevant. But data ownership comes to, if you in any large organization, who owns the data, right? Which business unit owns the data and feel accountable that they're going to be the guardians of good, clean data. Then comes, people say, oh, data is the lifeblood of digital, like this, that. But garbage in, garbage out. How about the cleanliness of data? How do you define, who defines what good looks like, right? Like when you have the simple stuff, maybe too simplistic. If you're collecting customer information, if you don't have the mobile number or email, it's incomplete, and it's not going to be too useful for some important functions. So how do you get clean data in the organizations? So ownership of data, governance of data, clean data, okay? That's the foundation one has to solve for. And then comes, how do you put it all together? It doesn't necessarily have to be in one operational warehouse or what have you, But really, first of all, what are you solving for is the question we always ask. And for us, when you're trading or investing, you need to have a 360 view of the client, because we are in here for our clients. What does a 360 view mean? Everything about the client, what their interests are, what they trade, what they could be interested in, and how do you help them win? So that you give, if you're following the news in the markets, there's no point giving yesterday's news for them today. It's like they can pick up the newspaper for that. You need to give them to be able to make trading or investment decision right then and there, based on markets, news feed, Twitter feeds, or what have you. So building a 360 view of the client from what they've done, what issues they have, and then being timely, relevant, and engaging is super important. Also important, because we're a regulated bank with many with fiduciary responsibilities, is end of day reporting, reg reporting, and that, if that's not right, good, clean, or accurate, you put the bank at risk with a lot of fines. So getting good, clean data, easily accessible, right? When you have a lot of legacy systems, how do they all communicate with each other? What are the delays, right? So, and we are going to good, clean data, well-defined schemas available on Kafka, decoupled producers and consumers, which anybody can use to collate and distribute. And I could go on for a bit on that.
That was almost formidable. It was incredible to just hear how all those various different interactions have a knock-on effect, just right. Continuously, as you said right at the beginning. Rubbish in, rubbish out, and all of those intersections come together, and technology is at the heart of it. And I'm really interested to see how cloud-based technology can maybe enable institutions of various different geographies, various different sizes, connect these disparate systems to prevent rubbish in and prevent rubbish out.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be cloud-based, I'm just telling you that, but cloud enables scale and volume and processing and compute, right? Cloud also, one of the things which cloud also does is there are other insights and services around AI and translation. Like you're going to a mall and suddenly there are a whole bunch of services you don't have to build yourself. It's available in the cloud as software as a service, which you can use to augment and drive information and decision making. We are using Snowflake. We are migrating to Snowflake, and that is a beautiful ecosystem. We are managing what data goes in, good clean data, and what that product have, which is we are using it in the cloud, is you can enable organization agility, because suddenly in the cloud people don't have to make large copies of data and do their own thing. You can have virtual teams working with their own little view in parallel with good clean data. And of course, data transport between on-prem and cloud, and storage and backup also become very critical. And one has to be cognizant of that. Security, one has to be cognizant of that. But we are taking all of that into account. So the foundation for transport, the foundation for security, and then you go to the cloud for auto scaling on capacity, volume, and services, brings it all together.
I think it's so important, especially when you do deal with the security side of things for such a regulated industry. That is so critical. Now, I'm interested more really also, if we dive down into Saxo and what your work you've been doing contemporaneously, how can an institution like Saxo use the cloud to make better use of this information? I know you've brought up, for instance, security, but maybe looking on towards other aspects too.
Yeah, before you move to the cloud, right, you need a control framework, because we are regulated. We had to get board approval. We operate in so many jurisdictions with so many regulators. We spent a year building what we call the cloud foundation. The cloud foundation is really controls, we had like 77 critical controls we had to put, which are technology, operational, legal. Right? You had to come up with also an exit strategy. And so once that foundation in place, how do services interact with each other? What is the security framework? It's not that anybody can do anything willy-nilly. What's the governance of using applications in the cloud, of building applications in the cloud? And for us, cloud happens to be a destination it's a lot of the CI/CD, the delivery efficiency, the software development pipeline, and being able to deliver value faster, which is a significant part of the cloud journey. And then put it in containers for scale, so that as volume grew up, suddenly Kubernetes can just, you can spin off, you can orchestrate, and you don't have to worry about ordering servers and being locked into hardware. So it enables tremendous amount of organization agility. And what really cloud does, right? Cloud enables autonomy for different application teams, which is super important. But so that everybody doesn't go off the reservation, however, it allows consistency. So autonomous teams, but with consistency of a use, a methodology, and a platform, which lets people scale in many dimensions, what you really becomes difficult to do on-prem unless you're buying data centers and all over the place. And we are a small firm, we are not in that business. So autonomy, consistency, and then you enable true parallelism and deliver value faster.
Well, I think you've hit such an important point there, in the fact that different firms have different needs, and obviously a lot of firms can't be affording to buying huge amounts of hardware that locks them into a technology that maybe, if we're looking at the exponential rate of technology change in finance, that's going to be almost, you're looking at pretty terrible futures there. So, I think that's so exciting to hear about how that weight is being taken off some of the little firms, the firms that are looking to scale at a high speed. All of that connects, and I think that's a very exciting thing that the technology can provide. Now, I know you're more focused on the kind of investment side, but how can, if we just look at very briefly, how can cloud-based solutions help the FIs improve their customer experience too?
Again, what does the customer want, right? And in our case, the customer is literally is not interested in your technology. The customer is interested if they're banking, or if they're trading, can they trade what they want easily? Is the bank helping them in, or they're just there to collect commissions? So the first thing is we have what we call, we have user journeys and customer touch points. And when you look at customer touch point, you have to follow the customer touch point with our firm all the way through the value chain, right? And to give them the best experience, whether it's upper funnel activity, onboarding, and everything, you have to have an X-ray through the firm and say, how do I make the journey most optimal? And that's with the least amount of human touch and going digital at scale. And going digital doesn't mean just having a fancy app, whether it's operations or finance, that engine is completely digital. If it's digital, the unit cost goes down, the cost to serve goes down, you give the price back to the customer. And also, there are lots of information, research, languages. There's tremendous amount of software as a services things which are available in the cloud, which we can leverage either to reduce the cost, make the journey more digital, but really get insights quicker and faster. Yeah. So it's a plethora of different things which we call the digital journey, which in the end we would really want the customer to win.
Well, I think that's such an important point, and I love that concept of you need an X-ray vision throughout each section, and it's brilliant that it can do that. Now, obviously, the title of this discussion was the journey to cloud. So I'm interested. What was the transformation to the cloud like for you guys? Is it as painful as previous legacy system updates, and can it be actually done on a kind of waterfall or at least a rolling basis?
It'll definitely on a rolling basis. This is not a big bang theory, and you never ever do cloud for cloud's sake. We spent a year building the cloud foundation, and which I think from all the banks I've been to was record time, right? We also, Deloitte gave us the CSA star level 2, Cloud Security Alliance level 2. We are the only bank in the world, not the Googles and stuff, who have got us the CSA star level 2 certificate, right? So first you have to build a foundation, a sandbox where people can operate safely and securely. Once you get that right, then you have to take application by application and see, okay, where's your pain point? You want to scale the business. Is the pain point because there's a lot of applications on physical machines which really can't scale. So you prioritize applications either based on, oh my God, I can't scale unless I get more servers. And we have a reference architecture. Anything new, and we build a lot of new things, has to be with a cloud native, cloud first reference architecture, right? Kubernetes, Dockers, containers, Kafka, gRPC, and we have a whole reference architecture. So we're going to be rolling out upcoming a whole new wealthcare/asset management solution, which is born in the cloud, born digital. So definitely rolling. The key thing is to add value as quickly as possible and get standardization as quickly as possible. We didn't have any mainframe, so we didn't have to do a lot of wraparounds. But either way, as part of the re-architecture journey, we want to be API first. So more APIs, more distinct services, so that the change impact is small, and just start rolling out re-architecture and just starting out roll stuff in a cascading manner based on either a new product you want to launch or a burning scalability issue.
Perfect. And yeah, I think that burning scalability issue is one that's always going to be in the core going into the future. Now, with that in mind, though, the bottom line is always important. And as you said brilliantly at the beginning of your last answer, is ultimately you're not going to transfer into cloud for cloud's sake. Yeah. So when starting these transformations, I think it's always really interesting to hear people's perspectives as what are the benefits that banks will see in the short term, because ultimately the board only sees one thing, if that's fair for me to say, and to be able to say, well, look, within a very short period of time, we can optimize this, that, and one of these. So I'm interested in those short-term gains from these transformations.
Yeah, I forgot to mention one other thing is people and culture, right? It's one thing to come up with beautiful reference architecture diagrams, but it's completely another thing to take the organization on the journey. You got to explain the why, what it means to them, why it's important, and how. We got to show people the baby steps to get there, right? So I think the short-term gains are, for example, during COVID times, we saw a huge amount of volumes, right? And if you were to buy hardware, I mean, it's a day late and $1 short. So I think the auto scaling benefits of that is based on volumes, which is really we are aspiring for growth. That's a huge benefit. Geographic proximity to the customer. So if you can distribute your services globally in different hubs in the cloud, so that whether you're in Singapore, Australia, or where have you, the user experience is quicker, faster, and more efficient. I think so that plays a huge deal. Services like definitely translation services, other stuff which we can just available SaaS in the cloud, which we can use to solve problems instead of writing stuff on our own. That's here and now. That's very good. Building the next generation, starting to build out and adopting the next generation warehouse. But it's a multi-year journey, but having a true north strategy and pack manning through that's a big deal. So again, it's if there's a specific back office service which is not working, forget about putting Scotch tape and chewing gum. Just start new on a cloud native reference framework. So that's been our approach.
That's absolutely amazing. Now, speaking of Scotch tape and chewing gum, we're seeing a lot of institutions now coming together. So I'm interested to see how, from an operations side of things as well, that cloud technology and your journey to that and doing it in the way that you guys did it in Saxo can streamline any future kind of M&A going forward.
Yeah, look, in what True North looks like is for us, our technology is not one big monolithic banking technology. For us, we are API first. For us, our core trading technology is a whole bunch of services with APIs which are being orchestrated and work together. So we have more than 120 partners who rely on Saxo's technology. and many big ones, and there could be more. The idea is when you start to integrate with partners and you start to build out an ecosystem, it shouldn't be all or nothing. Take all of Saxo's technology to power your backend or nothing. Some people may want to do some back office on their own, reporting on their own, some connectivity on their own. So we need an architecture which is highly decoupled, API first, as services in the cloud. So you just go and almost like a menu say, I want this service, this service, this service, glue them together with a well-defined API, which you can then integrate and merge and provide more services. So it is absolutely one of the business cases and core part of a re-architecture journey to have independent services in the cloud.
I think, yeah, it's when you say it like that, it just does sound so integral to the way that financial institutions, organizations are operating nowadays. It's so much more pliable and maneuverable that to hear that you can have that stickiness is brilliant. Now, if we're going to end on a kind of future crystal ball moment, and I feel like, if I was going to ask anyone this question, you're probably the person best placed to answer it. I'm interested to see how this technology, I feel like we're only just starting our journey here, even though I know Saxo has really started this journey for a while. But what could this technology do for banks in the long term, and why are you guys already perfectly placed with the journey that you undertook?
It's simplicity. So we all know, and this is a bit of a cliche, that really in a lot of banking, a lot of capital markets, technology is the backbone for efficient trading, investing, wealth management, asset management, what have you. That's the backbone, right? This kind of thinking, this kind of architecture is super important because whether it's cloud and or what have you, technology is evolving at a rapid rate, right? To keep up and you use the latest technology to enable the business, you need a decoupled architecture in the cloud because you can just make small changes very quickly, very easily, as opposed to being a multi-million dollar transformation project, right? So you just got to keep up because if you rewind the clock a few years back, getting board approved for the cloud, using newer technologies like Kafka, this was not taught at school, right? So things are going to evolve much quicker, faster. So to keep up with technology to benefit the customer, not keep up with tech for tech's sake, you need an architecture which is loosely coupled, decoupled, and stand on the shoulder of giants. Because here in Saxo, all that is enabling the business. We need to add business logic, business value, client focus, trading logic, and not worry about infrastructure, API, scaling. That should be a given. And we need those a layer of scaling, a platform, uniformity, being able to scale on demand so that we can focus our energy on business value and less on the underlying technology. And we let cloud providers and other people just take care of that.
Absolutely perfect. Absolutely brilliant. Well, Ashok, it has been incredibly informative because it is, as much as it has been a technology that's been around, when it comes to financial institutions, there's a lot of bluster and there's a lot of people saying that, oh, we've completed this part of the journey. It's so important to hear your perspective where you've actually undertaken that journey. And I love that notion of simplicity at the heart of it. That's going to be so incredible. So Ashok, thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed it and I hope you have too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm passionate about this and thank you so much, Doug.
Thank you. And also to our audience as well, you can catch the rest of the series and much more over at www.fintechf.com and of course YouTube and LinkedIn. So once again, Ashok, thank you very much and goodbye.
Goodbye.